rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Hello everybody, welcome back. So this video is going to be slightly different than a lot of mine because I feel like I'm going to be doing more of a true restoration. And I'm going to be working on a white rotary machine. And one of the things I'm going to be doing differently is I'm not going to completely disassemble her all at once and then completely reassemble her. I'm going to hit her more like in components. So that way I think that if someone just has a trouble with everything in the nose or everything underneath, I'll have taking apart, cleaning, and putting back on all at once. At least that's my hope at this point. I'm still at the beginning phases of this, so let me turn the camera down and we'll get started. Okay, I am going to get started up here in her nose, and my thought is that I'm going to just pull the entire nose section off and just work on that for this first part. You can see everything's very rusted. You can't even turn this dial. It is rusted into place. So I am going to be using my evaporest on her. So first of all, there's a screw down here. And let me get a dish to use. And one up here. The only other white rotary I think I have on my channel, it's actually a Florence rotary, which is a version of a white rotary. And that was one that I completely disassembled and painted pink a while back. You know what, I'm gonna wiggle. There's something else holding you on. Hang on. Show you, see this? Thread take-up lever, it's bent. It is completely bent in sideways. So that's kind of holding it on there. I don't even know what I'm going to run into inside, but I can tell I'm going to have to bend that back out. Okay, so let me lift you up. She is sticky. Okay, so this is the inside. And we're just going to go through and just work on this for right now. While I have it out, do you see this piece? I'm going to go ahead and take it off. I'll deal with this in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and take this off also so that I can get that straightened out and everything that has rust on it soaking in my evaporest at once. You know what? I am going to go ahead and throw a bunch of penetrating oil on here right now. And just let that sit for a minute. This is extremely dry, extremely rust-filled. I'm going to throw some on other parts too. Let those be thinking about themselves. While that's doing its job, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera down and get started with this piece down here. So before I get too much further, I'm just going to pop this little plate off, which needs a soak also. The way that this works is, this is my needle bar, obviously has a needle on it, and this little piece that pokes out is going to go in here. So as this goes up and down, as this rotates, this goes up and down. It's extremely nasty in there, so first thing I'm going to do is try to unscrew. Ooh, these finials are completely rusted on too. This is going to be quite the job here. All right. I wish I could soak this whole thing in evaporest right now, but I'm not too sure what it would do to the paint. And since the paint I'm going to try to keep, I need to do what I can to preserve it. These are not budging at all. I might have to do a little bit of research. I put more penetrating oil up on top. While that is doing its thing, I'm going to see if I can get some stuff off from down below here. Okay, so I'm working on the needle clamp. Okay, so this is the needle clamp on the inside. This screw, here's the needle, let me just put it aside. If I can get this screw out, if you can see there's a hole in it, and that's what the needle is actually sliding through. So that's going to go over there. This part looks like it's welded on, so the needle bar is going to have to come down from the bottom. So let me go ahead and see if I can get this off. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here's a set screw. And let me remove the one from this side over here also. Just turning easily. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So at this point, with enough heat and penetrating oil, I should be able to slide this clamp up and off of there. But there's so much junk here, I'm going to get a wire wheel and try to clean that off first. Okay, it's moving slowly, but you can see it's moved that much. I'm going to throw more penetrating oil inside of it. Keep tapping. I do need to get this finial off, so let me just keep working on that. Okay. It's slightly starting to move now, so let me get, here we are, the trusty mini vice grips. Until it comes easily. Oh, come on. Just popping it on, holding it still. Okay, it's starting to come easier now. Yay. All right, so again, this is the one for the needle bar area, okay? This finial here is what's holding on this, which is the little thread guide, and that needs to get all cleaned out. This is going in, and I am going to continue to hold this needle bar here, bringing it out. I don't have it grasped really tight, but I can grasp it a little bit. Oops, you know what? I need to take this presser foot off first because I'm running out of room here. Let's see if this ring, you should be just able to untwist it. Obviously, I cannot at this point. So I'm going to see if I can take the entire little clamp off. Okay, so the presser foot with this little screw goes right here. On. And now that I took that off, I can swing this around and pull this entire little foot off. So that's great. So now I should be able to continue to pull this and tap it. Okay. What a disaster, huh? Come on. It's almost off. There it goes. All right, so this is the little clamp. Now, when I'm going to put it back on, there's a part that is sticking out like this. That's obviously going to go up towards the front. This part that has a little screw hole, that was towards the center in here, okay? So not like that with the screw hole there. All right, this all needs to get cleaned, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this into my ultrasonic cleaner really quick and get it started while I work on the presser bar. I just realized I cannot run my ultrasonic while I'm filming because the audio interference is just terrible. So we're just going to keep working here, getting the presser bar off. So here's this finial. Okay, that's going to get cleaned up. On the side over here, there is a little thread cutter. And right now I'm assuming I'm going to pull this through the bottom so I can actually do that later. Let me go ahead and undo this screw right here. Let's see if I can get better light. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. Go ahead and try to loosen up this one. Here. And again, I'm keeping all of my presser foot stuff together. The spring will slide out the top, so that's a good thing. And this block here, the screw that's holding it on, is only accessible through this outside. So I'm going to throw a little more penetrating oil in there real quick, and I need to get a skinny little screwdriver in there to loosen it up, if you can see. I might need to clean that out just a bit. Can you see it there? That's the screw I'm talking about. Actually, because I'm going to have to push down this way, and this is off center, I am going to see if I can get this dial, at least this big screw, off. Like I said, it does seem like it's kind of rusted in place. So, you know, throwing my assorted cocktails of penetrating oils in there. Start with these. Will you work? Yes, it is turning. That dial is not supposed to move all the way around, but at least I am going to be able to unscrew this, it looks like. It looked like. Hang on. Maybe not. All right. Well, I feel like I'm at an impasse here, so I'm going to go ahead, unscrew these little plate screws. My hands are so greasy, I keep dropping things. Hang on. Okay. Slow and steady and all that. All right, so there's one off. Taking this one off. Now this whole piece is coming off, and I think it's just kind of pushed into place. See how that's off center? It's so that you can make that adjustment. This entire thing is going to go into the evaporest just like this. And I'm actually going to turn this arrow so it is off of that background so that it can hit the evaporust on both sides. So that's going to go in my tank, and all of these pieces. But now that this is nice and flat, and turn it this way, see if I can get a stout, skinny screwdriver to go into this hole. Small screwdriver. Nope, not gonna turn. Okay, I've got the long bit, I need a new glove, Craftsman screwdriver. And that is getting in there and giving me enough leverage. I can't unscrew it too much. Okay, I have to unscrew it just enough that I can turn this bar, but if I unscrew it too much, it puts too much pressure against the side. What a conundrum here. All right, I have to screw it back in just a hair. And let me see if I can clamp this end and just rotate this presser bar to get it out. Okay, so look, it is rotating around this. It's turning inside of that clamp. So I should be able to push it down, but just like on the other side, I'm going to get my little wire wheel and clean up all of this stuff so that that's smooth and it'll slide through easier. And up here too. Okay, let's see here, yes, and now I can pull it out, presser bar, okay, this clamp here, see this part in the casting, maybe you can, maybe you can't, it's right there, it's got a slot in it, the end of this piece slides up and down that slot, very filthy, it needs to get cleaned out and polished. This part down here, which is what I was fighting with, this is that screw that you have to tighten and loosen through the hole, okay? And of course, this slides through the opening over here. So, the tension unit is the last thing that I have to deal with on this front piece, so give me 1 second to organize my life. I wanted to show you basically all of the little pieces I am taking apart and throwing on the floor apparently, okay? But I want to be able to disassemble these as much as I can so that everything will get clean inside of there. So once I do a very quick run through my 50-50 mix of water and purple power in there just to get the exterior grime off, each component, really need a new glove, is in its own separate little dish. This is some evaporust in a little shallow dish, and I'm keeping them separated that way. I'll add, the tension unit in here also, and I'm just going to let them soak in here probably until later this afternoon or maybe even tomorrow, just to make sure I get all of that rust off. All right, so next I'm going to take off the lifter lever here. Yeah. Get my screwdriver. Okay. So there we go. That is what that bolt looks like. Okay, it's got a shoulder on it. Lifter lever. Nope, that is just the casting. There's nothing on the inside, no nuts on the inside. All right. This that is loose. That is this screw right here. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. This is all part of the, oops, a little spring washer just popped off when I did that. So that must have been, it's too small for that. That must have been on the inside over here. I'm going to have to go look and see if there's supposed to be a nut on there or not. Okay, let's go ahead and get this. If you've never done one of these tension units, they're a little bit different. So there's the screw. Put it here. Pull this up. Okay, so that comes off from the inside. And this needs to come out. Hopefully this is right. Yep, okay. This screw. All kinds of junk in there. All right, see this spring, that's what the dial is up against, and because that dial was not centered, it'll press this spring with different amounts of tension, which is going to make that give more or less tension on the outside. I just need to get the whole thing off of here. So let me just pull this spring out. See if I can do that. There we go, that's the tension spring. Put that in there so it does not get damaged. And I really need to undo this so that I can push the whole thing out. So give me a minute. So I just kind of popped it off. I will deal with all of this later. Right now I'm going to put it in there. And this little cog should come off too. It's just kind of gunk welded on. Oh my gosh. Trust me, that does come off. Let me give it a tap here. There it goes. All right, so that came off. That is it for all of the little pieces that are bolted on here. I'm going to give this a big clean. I'll show you that in a minute. But I'm going to run this in my ultrasonic really quick just to get the greases off, and then let it sit in the evaporest. And after that, I'll deal with this issue right here. All right, now for cleaning. This machine is a disaster. And there are 101 different opinions on how you should clean an old sewing machine. Everything from only water and Q-tips to alcohol to sewing machine oil or less, or else you know you're evil. And I am in the whatever works for you camp, okay? So what I am smearing on here right now is just original 𝐥𝐤𝐤. And that's going to melt a bunch of this gunk off here. I'm going to let that sit for just a bit before I try to rub it off. But inside and out, this entire thing is really, really bad. Underneath the dial, you can see what it should look like when it's clean. So that's my goal. Okay, so first I'm coming inside where I can rub with reckless abandon. I've got a little Scotch-Brite kind of pad here. And I am just scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing to try to get some of that built-up stuff off. Okay. All right, so now that that is off, let's see. And I'm going to start this down here where that little cog was welded on. It's just layers and layers of yuck. And since there's no decal there, I'm scrubbing it probably a little bit harder than I will in a place where there will be a decal. Now coming up here where the decal is, actually I'm going to start on this side where it's not as noticeable. There's still a bunch of gunk there, and I'm rubbing it, but I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just kind of working it back and forth and letting the 𝐥𝐤𝐤 do what it needs to do. My object is just to get the gunk off that's on top of the decals. Once I can see that the decals are pretty clean, then I'm going to stop with this. But at this point, it's just to get the heavy buildup stuff off. Just very light over there, and pretty light over here. I know this is really freaking some people out here. Okay, so that's my first pass. Go ahead and rub it off. I'm not rinsing it in water. I'm just rubbing it off with a shop towel. Inside and out. Okay. All right. And now that that is off, I want to be a little bit more delicate with all of this stuff underneath. But I don't know if you can see, there's still a bunch of grossness there. So let me go grab something else. Okay, so now I am in the whatever is going to work category. So what I'm going to start with is I have a little bottle of sewing machine oil. This little spray bottle, which is about that much, 70% isopropyl alcohol, a few drops of dish soap, and then the rest is water. Okay, my 𝐥𝐤𝐤, a very soft little bristly brush to scrub with, Q-tips, all of that. And basically, I'm just starting, and I'm going to do a little bit of something, see how that works. If that doesn't work, go to the next thing, and just work my way around. I want to try to save all of these decals and brighten them up. But, you know, you can only do what you can do, and sometimes what you can do is not perfection. It's just keeping it safe. So, like, that is the oil, with the idea that oil loosens oil. But I don't, the thing is, oil, yes, oil loosens oil, but there's other things involved here. There's probably some nicotine, there's probably grime, I know there's rust on this machine, and so it's just a matter of doing what you can do. So there's the oil on it. Let me throw some of the alcohol on there too. Scrubby, scrubby. Okay, wipe it off. And see if that brightens it a little bit. Slightly, but we can still do more. So I'll probably do that a few more times. And it'll make it clean. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to make it clean enough that we can work on it. Now down here where all of this stuff is, yeah, I'm going to scrub that a lot harder because there's a lot of just garbage going on here that's been caked on underneath all of those gears. While I'm working on this, which is, you know, my primary focus for right now, I'm going to go ahead and throw 𝐥𝐤𝐤 all over this thing. I still need to get this off. That's a reminder for that. But I'm going to go ahead and throw 𝐥𝐤𝐤 all over this because it's not going to hurt it at all, and it'll make it cleaner for when I'm going to go ahead and take all these pieces off. Let it sit for a while, and then I'll just wipe all of that off in a bit because it all needs to get cleaned up also. Okay, so at this point it's clean, okay? Is it perfect? Absolutely not, but it's clean and it's functional, and I could, you know, probably get it cleaner, but I would end up having to sit here for, you know, probably 100 hours on this machine, you know, detailing it piece by piece, and I don't have that amount of time or money built into this machine. Unfortunately, it's not going to be my career, but I can show you that I am getting it clean so that when the parts go back on, they are going to function really well. There's not going to be a buildup of goo and stuff underneath there, if you can see. Okay, so I'm going to call this good for right now. Move my bucket of 𝐥𝐤𝐤 out of the way. Come back over here and just start wiping down the entire machine. Okay, even if it's not going to sparkle everything, what it's going to do is get that first surface layer of all the nasties off, so that as I, continue to take parts off, it's going to be a lot better. Looks like this spool pen here wants to just spin on me. That's kind of fun. All right, so let me finish wiping her down, and I need to tackle this piece, getting that unscrewed and rebent out so it's straight. Okay, so this is turning much better now. Just letting it sit with its penetrating oil in. That's the key. So there is the big screw up on top. Well, let me just leave that there for a second. I need to take this screw off down below. A different bit. Okay, so this rusty plate is now off. Still throwing things around. This is off. I do need to bend that, but you know what? I'm gonna clean it first. So let me get all of this over with the other parts to get cleaned and de-rusted. Okay, so while that stuff is cleaning, I wanted to show you what I'm doing as I'm coming in here. This moves freely. I'm not going to worry about unscrewing it and taking it off. If I needed to, there is a screw up here that you have to access through this angle to pull out, to then pull this whole piece out. Since everything is good there, I'm just cleaning up around it, around everything in here with my wire brush, coming in, polishing everything up. I'm going to go inside here with a smaller brush, clean that up. I'm getting that all ready. Inside this cog in there, that needs some oil. Okay. So let me get a smaller little wire brush and go inside of that little area and then wipe it down. Okay, and that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and just put a few more drops of oil back in here to catch that. Actually, if I put it in the side and then rotate it, that'll probably work. Over here on this side, if you can see this groove right here, I need to make sure that that is oiled nicely because that's where that little bent piece needs to sit. And then from the side, I can get back in there, and actually, I am going to use my little tube and my nano oil and get back in there. Now, a white rotary turns the reverse than like a Singer. In a Singer, you turn the wheel towards you to sew. On these, you turn it away from you. So just that little heads up. She's still moving stiffly, but there is a lot of parts I still need to disassemble. Okay, so I am taking off the spool pin pieces while I've got everything else soaking over there. I'm going to go ahead and polish them really well over with my little turner lathe thing and everything else, and I will be back shortly. So this is a mini lathe. I just use it for its little chuck, but it works great, as you can see, for cleaning up things like this. Okay, my battery died, so I was doing a couple things off camera. First, I got these put back on. This one here, there is an outside sleeve that spins. The inside stays stationary. If you see that, that's supposed to happen. This is back on. The wheel, I've cleaned the outside of the wheel, so it's a lot cleaner than it was. And this is clean and everything. The way that the clutch works on these is this. Well, if you can see right here, there's a little slot that goes all the way through. That is engaged. If you push this, oops, sorry, if you lift it, it disengages, okay? So that's winding a bobbin without the main mechanism moving. And then when you're done winding the bobbin, push that down, and when it comes to that slot, it'll fit into it, okay? And again, this is going to turn backwards. I've thrown oil into all of her oil ports up top. Feeling pretty good about that. And I think I've got this pretty straight. What I did is put it on my wood block, and with my rubber mallet, I just kept tapping it until it straightened out, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. When it comes time to reassemble that, if it looks like I still need to put a little bit more oomph onto it, I can. But that looks good to me. So if I slide it in here, it looks a lot straighter. It was like that before, so it looks a whole lot straighter. So I'm pleased with that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put that whole little piece back together in here. So let's see here. First, this goes on afterwards, so I need to get this plate on. Ooh, how were you on there? It goes like this. There's a little screw hole down here that this lines up with. You know what? Let's put this on first. Hang on. Just to hold it. Getting it started. It's not tightened up, but it's just to hold it in place. Get my little screw here. A screw starter to hold it. And line it up with the little hole down here. And I'm doing this while standing at a weird angle, so hang on a sec. All right. I can see through there where the little hole is, and I should be able to get this started. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. Go ahead and tighten this. And get a different screwdriver to tighten this. Okay, and before I go any further, turn the wheel away from me, make sure everything is moving freely up there, and it is. It's not 100% free because I haven't even gotten into the bottom. There's a whole rotary hook thing going on down there. I'm just working from top to bottom pretty much, okay? So if that is on there nicely, and I slide this into the place, my question is it going to fit in that slot as I turn the wheel up and down? And it is, so yay, that's a success right there. Okay. While I am here and those other parts are soaking, I'm going to go ahead and take off this whole little stitch length piece here because it is terribly nasty, so I can be cleaning that up, and also this bobbin winder. And try to get the bobbin winder off. So if I can do this without bumping my camera, that would be great. Looks like I need to raise you up. Alrighty. I need to get this cleaned up, polished, oiled, so it spins freely. And actually it is spinning, it just needs to be cleaned. Get this little screw cleaned up, and then I'll pop it back on. Okay, all cleaned up, moving freely. The screw is nice and clean, so that's going to go back. over here. I should have taken that ratchet off because it's annoying. Well, flip, flip, flip. Okay. That is all good. All right, now back to this cover plate here for the stitch length. I'm going to have to move everything down just a bit. Okay. That's annoying. Okay. Okay. I am going to need to get this machine hooked up onto my little block so I can work on her while she is laid back. Once I get this taken care of here. Nasty. And I'm still debating how far I'm taking her apart. I'll know more as soon as I tip her down, but for right now there's a lot of junk in there, and I'm just going to go get my air gun and blow it out real quick. Well, unfortunately I cannot use my block to mount her upright because these have singer-size pins on them, and the white rotary pins are a little more narrow diameter right here. So that's just not going to fit in there, unfortunately. So I'm going to come up with something else. Okay, so I just have her laid back on a pillow here, and we're going to take a look at the bottom for a bit. Because there's a whole lot of dryness and issues that need to be addressed. But one thing I want to show you. This is my stitch length lever. And if I move it up and down, this is where it's connected here, and that's just a disaster. So as far as getting inside of here and undoing all of this in here, I don't want to do that, but there's a big enough gap in there that I can pour a boatload of penetrating oil in there and just let it think about its life choices. For quite some time while I'm working on the bottom. Get in there with a really skinny little rotary brush, you know, clean out where I can. And I'm pretty sure that at least this part right here is going to be able to move freely. This part down here is going to be a little bit more work. So that is my thought right now. This is the rotary hook, and yowza, she is a mess. So let me get my thoughts together here and just get her situated. All this stuff up here is just the bracket for if she is in the original white rotary cabinet. That's the bracket for releasing her, okay? That stays on just in case she finds a white rotary cabinet for her to go back into. You know, that's going to be a good thing. So let's start down here. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this part down here. So I've got the screw coming on this side, the nut on this side. Oops, that nut I have broken free. It's coming off. This does not want to come free, so I'm going to put some more penetrating oil on here. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and spray everything down here because it's going to need to sit and think about itself for a while too. Yeah. Okay. Now I can remove this screw. There it goes. Now it's coming free. All right. So this, I'm going to clean up this end here. There are some pivot points on each end. Let's see, what size are you? I think it's smaller than 9/16. Yeah. I think it's a 1/2 inch. It's just a very dirty 1/2 inch. Okay, so it should be the same righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Let me see if I can get that on there, maybe. Well, yeah, 9/16 is too big. A 1/2 inch seems too small. Let me try it on this side. Oops. All right, it's time for a regular wrench. Okay, I got it broken loose. This adjustable wrench. Still stiff. So yeah, it's not a 1/2 inch, it's not 9/16, it's just a really weird gray area. So let me unscrew this side and this side over here. The nut came off. There is still a screw in here. If I just back that point out. Okay. Long pivot point. Okay, there's the pivot point there. So let me do the same thing over here. Okay. Bring you over the edge so I can just undo you this way. Okay, that is free enough. There you go. All right. I need to take my feed dogs off down here. There's a screw right there, which should, oh my goodness, hang on. It should break off the feed dogs. There it goes. Looks like there's a washer around this screw. Okay, and before I can get the feed dogs off, I do need to take off this front plate right here. So let me get a shorter screw here and get that taken off. One. Just using the ratchet to get it started is a help, and then once it's broken free, then I can just twist it off. Okay. And this should come off, and the feed dogs are stuck, but they should come out. Pieces cleaned up and everything over here, and now I need to I'm going to work on this part up here. Again, there's pivot bolts up here. It looks like once I pull those out, this is going to be able to rock down, but this is a complete circle here that's going all the way around this main shaft, And at this point, I'm not main shaft, sorry. The center rotary shaft. And I haven't figured out yet how far I'm pulling this out. I might go ahead and pull, hang on, that went very fast. This little spring-loaded clamp here, if you push it down, like I just did, this front piece is going to come off. The bobbin case right here. There's a bobbin in it. Lovely, special bobbin. The bobbin case is going to come out, and the little hook. All of these are going to go in and get started getting cleaned. This does not look rusted in here, which is very good to me. Pivot points off. Sorry, interference, noise issues there. What I need to do now is take this screw off. Okay, if you can see, that screw, it looks like an adjustment point, or maybe a lowering feed dogs kind of point. I don't know, but I need to get that off. So let me do it. That is on tight. Don't think there's a bolt or a nut in the back. I think it's just... I may need to put some more penetrating oil in there. Oh, you see this right here on top? There's a little screw right here. Right. How can you see it? Right there. I need to loosen that screw up. Okay. So backing that screw out. It's not all the way out, but that should loosen it up enough that I can come back in here and remove this one. It's still stiff, but not nearly as much. There we go. It just broke free. Okay. So this is what came out. You can see it's got a washer that has a slide area in it. Okay. I'm leaving that together for right now. So now this piece here is free, and this whole thing is going to just rotate down. Since that is out of the way, I'm going to see if there's an easy way just to take the rest of this hook out of the machine. Right now, what this looks like to me is this screw right here. It's kind of like a clamp right there. Hang on a sec. And inside of this clamp is a bushing that the hook is connected to, or this bracket back here is connected to. I'm going to try to loosen this up and see if I can pull this out. So that is out now, and everything is so sticky, I have no idea. I want to tap it. I think I'm going to spray penetrating oil here and try to tap it out, see what happens. Well, that did not do anything, so I'm thinking about it, and I'm making the executive decision to leave it in and clean around it. Part of that decision, I just cleaned that a little bit, is that at this point, if I turn the wheel, holding this so it doesn't go flopping, well, my wheel is on the table here. Pull it off. Okay, it's spinning freely now. So whatever is holding it up at this point was probably connected with this. If I get in here and I do even more cleaning with my Dremel, especially down here, and then I can clean this, you know, while it's loose like that. I'm very happy with the way that it's spinning. So that's my thought. You know, I am all for completely stripping things down, but there comes a point when you can do more harm than good sometimes. And I think on this particular machine, this is as far as I am wanting to take it. Now, the bobbin case, the hook, all of that, that's in my electrolysis tank, and yes, those are going to get polished very, very well. But this bracket that's basically holding it all in place, I can clean it right here, and I can clean that, so it's pretty good. So that is my thought. I'm going to be working on that for a while. I'm going to turn off the camera because I need to turn my ultrasonic back on, and it makes terrible noise on the camera. So when you come back, this is going to be clean, and I'm going to clean up those little pieces that go in here, and then we'll start putting her back together. All right, I actually got tired of messing with the camera, and I just wanted to get it back together. So the shafts are back in, and it's cleaned up and everything down there is spinning fabulously. So at this point, what I want to do is put the hook back in. I have taken apart and cleaned as much as I can this hook. There is a little bit of place where the chrome plating is coming off, but I don't think it's going to interfere with the function of it. So got that going for us. So this opening is going to pop down on here, but first it slips on this side. So I have the machine tipped up, so hopefully gravity's going to work with me. You know what, let me just set this in place first. There, I think that's the correct position for the hook itself. Put this underneath here, and then there's that little lever that I'm pushing. This lever is moving that in and out, okay. And there, okay, so it's popped back in. This is what holds the bobbin case in. So that comes, drop my bobbin case. Okay, so that this comes, bobbin case pops in and it comes back down. And yes, I just got my dirty fingerprints on everything I did clean, but that's okay. That's okay. I need to get my feed dogs put back on, and this is where they bolt on right there. All right, so they are going in super tight, but that's the way they go. I am going to go ahead and put the screw back on. If I need to adjust them up and down, I'll probably have to tap them because it's snug. And I double checked on another white rotary that I have that this is the correct way to do it, and yes, it is. So, you know, there you go. Let me move the camera so I can actually get my screwdriver in here. So say I need to raise my feed dogs. What I would do is just loosen this screw a little bit so there's a little bit of play. And I got to get something to tap with, so I'm just going to put this little brass piece here and tap it up, and you see how that just kind of slides up. And then once it's in the right position, then go ahead and get it screwed in. Okay, I want to show you, I put this plate on so I can see how those feed dogs are traveling. And it looks like the center of it's down a little bit. I don't think that's going to make a difference. But you can see when they're at their highest, they're not poking up very high at all. So I'm going to go ahead and tap this up a little bit higher, you know, loosening the screw and tapping it like I showed just a minute ago. I've got it at the right height, but I'm really not liking how that center part of the plate is angling down. So I'm going to take this plate back off and see if I can tap that out so it's more level. Let me get this off so I can show you what I'm talking about. See if you can see right there how that center part's kind of dipped down. That's what I'm going to try to level out. Okay, I think that's a lot better. Feeling a lot better about that, so I'm going to go ahead, just place it on here just to make sure everything is good, and it is, and the feed dogs are actually moving a lot freer with that hammered out. So just use my little mallet and a wooden block to tap it. And was not too difficult, but very worthwhile. So right now, turning the wheel, everything is moving very freely. Very happy about that. Now I'm going to pop the bobbin in so I don't lose it. Okay, I think I have my bobbin tension set right. If I need to adjust it, it's this little screw right here. Tightening it. Loosening, righty tighty lefty loosey. Okay, I got my old white Rotary cheat sheet out, and I want to show you the picture. Okay, that's it, but this is how they are showing to use your hand so that you can lift this little lever right here with one finger and then use the other two to grasp the center part and pull it out. Okay. And to put the thread into the bobbin, okay, this side over here has the little hook onto it. I'm going to start with my thread coming up that same side and slide it into that slot. And then we're going to come all the way down over here and back up. Oopsie, did not go all the way down. Okay, now it went all the way down. There's a little hook in there. So you go all the way down and then pull it up, and it gets between those two tiny lips, and then you can pull it. Like I said, I'm pulling very lightly and it's turning, so I think that I have it set right. So with these two fingers holding it this way, this pushing it in that way, and let it go. And I believe that that is in there correctly. But again, if I need to tighten it, I can get to this screw from the outside so that if while I'm stitching it is much too loose, it actually feels slightly loose, I can just come in here and turn that screw just like a quarter turn or so. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there for right now. And what do I want to do now? I still need to get my front plate put together and everything, but I'm going to go ahead and tip her down. And before I put that front plate on, I'm going to give her another cleaning. So I think I am going to be calling it a night. I need to still put together her faceplate. The idea of doing one component at a time kind of flew out the window. But a remark I wanted to make is I would call this a making it so type of restoration. It is not a making it new restoration. It's making her work, cleaning her up, and getting her going. You know that I do a lot of complete teardowns, repaints, and everything like that. But that's not what this is, and sometimes you don't want to do that to certain machines. If you want to keep, all of their scars and everything, and you don't feel comfortable doing a complete every single bolt teardown, and you can see underneath, I did not take apart all the stuff in her column to remove the stitch length. But you can tear it down to the position that you can still get in there and work on things. And I think that that's the best for this machine right now based on, what the owner has requested. So I am just going to walk away from her for now, go get a hot cup of coffee, and in the morning, all of those front plate parts that are still in the evaporest will be ready for me to polish, and then we'll get that put together. Hello everybody, welcome to the next day. So at this point the machine is as clean as it's going to get. Her finish is shot. She's got scratches all over. It looks like when they, I don't know when, might even be original, but it looks like there's like brush marks, like when you paint with a brush, shellac onto a machine. It looks kind of like there's those marks on there. I can't buff them off. It just is what it is. But she is clean. She's just worn, you know? But that's okay. That's okay. That's giving us a good place to start. I have cleaned all of her parts that were soaking in the evaporust and her stitch length. And I actually went ahead and put her stitch length plate back on just so I wouldn't get those little screws confused with the other ones. So, what I'm going to do is just push her back and bring her little front plate up here, and we're just going to get started getting all of this stuff put together because there's a whole lot that goes in that one little place. So what I'm going to start with is her stitch length. And actually, I put these bolts in here just so I would not misplace them. But I'm going to take them out real quick here. Okay. So if I'm starting with I'm starting with her tension mechanism. And let's see here, there's on this little cog, there's a side that's more curved and a side that's more sharp. I'm putting the sharper side on the bottom. And let's see here. Right here, there are two little holes. I'm just cleaning those out because they weren't cleaned out all the way before. Okay, let me get the cog set over that this way. Okay, and you can see that those two holes are lining up with those two little holes on the cog at this point. Trying to get my remote to work. I think the battery is dying. Okay, on top of that cog is the spring that looks like this. Okay, I've got it all cleaned up. And this little hook on the spring is facing down. Pushing it through the wrong thing. It's just behind here. Nothing through there, but the little loop is right there. Okay? Now, this piece is going to be on the inside, but this little tab is going to be poking out and through here. Okay? So it's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm just going to see if I can slide it into place here. On this side, there's a little bump out in the casting that I need to get that piece over, like that. Set it down. Okay, now I need to work on this piece here. I'm going to put my finger here to try to hold it while I flip everything upside down. Okay. Let's see if I can move you. All right. At this point, what I'm looking at is this hole right here, and the spring through this slot I am pushing up. All right, because I want to put this little thumb underneath that spring and over this hole right there. Okay, like that. I need to find the screw that's going to go in there and hold it together. I'm pretty sure it's this one. It's the right diameter, and it has a tiny, tiny little shoulder that is just thick enough for this little plate to go over. So I'm gonna get that started in there. Okay, so at least that's in place, and it does still move even when it's cinched in, so that is good. All right, so if I flip everything back over, well, you can see this little cog is coming out of place there, but I think I can move it all back into place. Okay, hold on. Do a couple things here, and I'm going to pop this off so I can kind of show you. On this cog, there's like a little teardrop shape and a hole opposite it, okay? On this spring, it comes off like, and it has a little tail that sticks out. the tail of that spring needs to set inside of something, and I am choosing the little teardrop side. Okay, otherwise you can't get the screw in. So now that that is in place, I'm putting this end back over that little part that's popping out there and snapping it back on. Okay, so the spring, when I did that, my spring moved under my little lever thing. Hang on a second. I need to fix that. Let's try this one more time. This little spring needs to be over that finger. And this is the finger I'm talking about right there. Okay, now it is. See, there's the finger and there's the spring above it. Hopefully you can see. So, all right. That looks right. That looks right. If I come inside and I move this piece, that should move that little finger up and down, which should move this little spring up and down once it's under tension, okay? That's the thought there. Now over here, this little piece, there's another little nub that's sticking out of the casting there, and there's a hole here. That little hole needs to pop on top over that little nub, okay? So now I have a spring up here, and that is correct. So what's going to hold this spring down is the little stitch length indicator, and you can see it's not perfect here. It's clean, but it's not perfect. But you know, as we do, this is still moving pretty stiffly. And I'm thinking that it's just supposed to, because it has to put enough tension. See how that's not symmetrical? I think it just has to stay stiff. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it in. This little spring inside that I just showed you, that goes down, and this pops into that hole on top of it. Okay, so inside you can see it's like that. This little piece is on top of that spring. So let me get the screws and screw that in place. All right, so that is screwed on. So when I'm turning this dial, what I want you to see is it's turning that wheel to put more or less pressure against that spring, okay? This is still moving freely. I think we are still in business here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put the lifter lever on because I have that in the same little bin of parts right here. And there's a little piece in the casting right here that sticks out. The curved side of this is going to go up against that piece of the casting. And there's this little molded part that kind of sticks out. That goes up against the piece here, okay? And I have a screw. Oopsie, hang on a second. I've got a washer here. Oh dear. I think that the washer was supposed to go on that screw I put in there. I need to back that up and put the washer on. Anyway, I'll get back to that in 1 second. I'm going to lay this here like that and get this screw started. Get my fingers out of the way just like that. I actually put the washer in here between this plate up on top and the spring. So that's where that is. Okay, so now what we're going to start working on is the presser bar, which is this little dish right here. And I'm going to try to move you so you're straight down on here. I'm going to put some oil on here. There's a little nub that sticks out along this edge, because this little nub that sticks out is what's going to ride up and down here. Okay, and then this here is going to come out that hole in the casting. So if I can get that set in place like that, Okay, that's moving pretty good. Put a little more oil on there just for fun. Okay. Yeah, that is good. All right, so now there's another piece that's going to come straight across here. This little guy. And again, throwing oil inside of it and over here on this tip, because that's in a slide, which is going to go in that little place there. So I'm just going to kind of set it in place like that. Okay, so I got those two in place. Then my presser bar, where are you? Here you are. That's going to come up from the bottom. So looking at it this way, this little piece that I actually cleaned and put back on off camera, that's going to be towards the lifter lever. And, oh, I have this upside down. Hang on. Let me turn it this way for a second so that I can... Oh, nope, that's not going to work either. This has to be able to go in here. Yeah, it was just a little bit snug. All right, feeding it up through here. And through here. And before I go any further, I have a spring that it's going to need to go through above that. Oops. Did not mean to push that down as far as it did. Oh, the spring goes all the way through the top. Okay, that's good news. All right. So, there's a screw that's going to go in here, a clamping screw. And I need to... Oh, these look very similar. Let me figure out which one of these little guys it is. Well, I realized that I had not done a couple things correctly. And one of them is... Oh, shoot. I still didn't do it correctly. I put the wrong little screw in here. Hang on. What I did wrong before, and apparently I still did wrong, is this has a screw that goes in there, and I just put the wrong one in, okay? But I need to put the screw in there before I can slide this into place, because that's the one that I have to get a tiny screwdriver, put it through the slot, and tighten it up that way. So let me get that put in. Okay, so I am putting this screw in just enough that if I screw it just a bit more, I see it starting to come through there. I don't want that, but I want it in enough that I can actually fit it into this place over here. So once again, putting the little nub into the slot and rotating the big rectangle shaped part down into the side slot here. Okay. That's good, and I'm going to start the presser bar in there. Okay. Okay, so in all honesty here, I was not sure how far to space this. So I went and got another one off another white rotary I have in my shop, just so I could measure this distance that this machine is set at. And I'm assuming that this is set correctly. And that distance is 76 millimeters. Okay, right at exactly 3 inches. So I'm going to put this measurement there. If I come, it's from the very bottom here up to this top right here. That looks about right to me. Yes. So I'm going to call that good. Get my skinny little screwdriver in the side here and tighten it up, hoping for the best as always. Okay. So now if I move this up and down, the whole shaft should move along with me. And oh, I can see that that's not perfectly squared. I can adjust that later. This is positioned so that I can make that adjustment once it's on the machine itself. I can loosen that and rotate this just a hair. But it would be easier if I did it right now. So I'm just going to crack it and straighten the shaft and set it back. Okay. All right, now there's also a place for this to go up and down. Okay. And the question is, well, first of all, how to get this to move freely. I think I just need to put some more oil in there. Yeah. All right, and I'm going to put a little bit more oil in this slot here. Okay, much better. And as this is moving up and down, I can see it is moving that little underneath lever up and down. So all is well. Okay, I need to figure out where this one needs to be. So you know what? I'm going to refer back to this one and measure the space between the top of this and the bottom of that and try to match that up. So, no, I don't have high-tech tools. This is the cheap Harbor Freight version, but you know what? It serves me well. So, I put them in here like, come on, like that. Okay, which is just barely over 1.5 inches. It's 40 millimeters. That's what I'm going to do in this spacing, 40 millimeters. And I'm almost there. So let me pop this up a little bit. Okay, it was right there, 40 millimeters. Right there. So from there to here, yes, that's good. I'm going to call it good. I'm going to go ahead and get this screw placed in. So if you're doing this at home and you don't have one to compare, those are the measurements I am using for right now, okay? 40 millimeters here, 3 inches there. Yes, I'm mixing units. Terribly frowned upon and all of that. Okay. Make sure everything is still moving. And it is. I'm going to put this little spring down from the top because it came out that way, so it should go back in that way. All right. And this little finial, I'm just going to get started screwing it on top too. Put a little more oil there because why not? Okay, and that finial is going to add pressure to this spring. It's feeling tight. It's feeling, maybe I just need to move it up and down for a while. If I lift the lifter lever, I think I need to screw my finial in a little bit more for a little more pressure. Okay, lifting my lifter lever. Oh yeah, there's a lot of tension there now. Okay. All right, so that's good. Whew, let's move on to the needle bar. Oh, and I do have my little foot here, and I did get all of this loosened up so it turns really nicely. I'm just going to go ahead and pop my little foot on there. It's a slot like that, and then I can just turn this little knurled nut down until it's on really securely. Okay. I think I'm missing a tiny, tiny screw. Oh, here it is. Okay, that's where that little screw goes. I'm going to hold off putting this on until after I get my needle bar in, though. Okay, so now this is my little block here, and this is my clean needle bar. It needs to slide up from the bottom. Okay, so I got that in a little bit. And we have this piece here, okay? One side is flat, one side has a place for a little screw. You need the side with the little screw to go towards the needle or the presser bar. So I'm going to get this little set screw just started like that. Place it down here and push the needle bar up. Okay, and then that needs to go up all the way through. All right, you see, can only go that high. That's the max. And I am not seeing a place, a timing place. Oh, there is, okay. Do you see this tiny little hole right there on the needle bar? Okay. It's only on that one side. That to me means that is where the little clamping screw was screwed into, okay, which is this one over here. So let me turn this again so I can see where that little hole was. Where are you, little hole? There it is. Okay, right here. I'm going to push that up until, I should actually take this out, until I can look through this little hole and see that lining up with it. Right there. Okay, you can't see it, I can. This tip of this screw is very pointed. It's going to aim straight there. Okay, like that. Now I need to get it tightened up. Now, I just wanted to point out, this is on the same side as the flat part of the bottom of the needle bar. If I flip it over, this has an indent on it, okay? So this screw, this side, at this point I have it rotated so they are both straight up. That's going to change soon. But for right now, that's how it's oriented, okay? So now if I lift it, this is how it actually should be as it's moving. Okay. There is another screw that's going to go in here like this. Okay. Don't know why that is stopping. This one does not have a point at the end. It's just a flat set screw. Okay, so that's good. Okay, now up here on the top, there is a thread guide that's going to go up on top, and there's a little nub right there, and there's a little hole. You can focus on the thread guide, and that's going to go over it like that. Okay, once that thread guide is on, then I can go ahead and screw this finial on top of it, and that's what's going to hold it in place. Okay. All right, so as this goes up and down, it's moving very freely. All of that up there is good. Okay, this is my needle clamp and my needle. Again, I'm going to hold off on that for just a moment. And I believe we're about ready to go ahead and put this onto the machine, which is exciting. So let me move some things around. Okay, so at this point, this is as clean as it's going to get. Everything's very well oiled in there. The bottom of this is what this post is going to stick into. So I'm just going to kind of get that lifter slot, or you know what, let me turn this so that that is up high and that is low. I think that will be easier for me. Okay, this has to be over to the side here, so if I, you know what would be easier is to do this on its back. Wait, did I get it? No. All right, I'm going to put the machine on its back, and that way this thing won't move, and I can kind of figure out where it needs to stay. Okay, down here at the very bottom, there is a hole. I am moving that over, sticking a screwdriver in there to hold it in place, because I have this at the very bottom position also. And so hopefully, I can get that to line up. Not sure if that did it or not. Nope. That did not do it. Okay, let's see. Putting this all the way down, that over the hole. I need to kind of stoop down so I can look from the bottom, I think. Hold that in place with a Q-tip this time. And now I can see it. Okay. Nope, that did not do it either. I'll know it's right when I can turn the wheel and the needle bar actually goes up and down. So, yeah, this is kind of a pain here. Up, 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 up. All right, you know what? I'm going to take this screw out. I have an idea that this is kind of like the screw in the back of a Singer. Because why else would they give us this position in the back to reach a screwdriver through, right? So, okay, look. That worked. It's going through. So, but look. See that? How that's banging? I might have, when I was trying to straighten this out, I might have tipped it down a little bit. I'm gonna have to bend that upright just a hair. You can't even see what I'm talking about. Watch this right here. See that? It's just barely at the bottom, and you can see it's just barely there, but not good. It was bent. I think that this machine was probably dropped on its nose at one point. Because this was bent over that way, so when I straightened it this way, it's down like a 1/16 of an inch too low. So I'm going to have to take this off, pull this off, go back over where I can hammer it safely and just raise it up just a hair. All right, so now if I turn this, see, it does not hit here, so we are good. I'm going to go ahead and get those 2 screws that attach in the back right here so that I can put this down. The faceplate will stay where it needs to be. Okay, I need to get my presser foot on, and I need to make sure I have it turned so it's angled the right way, and that looks pretty good. There. Okay. Now I can lower this. Looks like a pretty good placement. All right, then the needle clamp. So this is what it looks like. There's a little hole right there. And I need to turn this so it's down lower. Okay, this screw through this hole here. And there's a little thread guide slot right there. I need to go double check if that goes on the top or the bottom. Looking at my picture here, it looks like it is on the bottom there. So that's good. And it looks like it screws into the side. So what that means, unfortunately, is that I have this oriented incorrectly, which means that this one was actually incorrect, unfortunately. This has to be sticking out, okay? But in order for this screw to be coming in on the side, give me a second to figure this out. I'm so bummed out about this. Yeah, this just can't be right. Because if I have this on the back, well, first of all, you can't even sew like that because that little screw is going to bump on your presser foot. Can't get in there. So I'm going to have to open this up and adjust this screw and this screw so that I can rotate the needle bar. All right, so I am looking for that little nub right there. That's the first one I looked at. That's not right. Looking at this one here so that this screw is off to the side here. Okay, while I hold that in place, I'm going to put this long set screw in there. Okay, and then turn it over and come in. Oh, and I do see another one. So there were 2 dots on this needle bar. I was just looking at one. I don't know. Sometimes you just are supposed to do things a few times, maybe. It's the journey and all that stuff, right? Okay. All right, this should work now because this is on the right side for being able to put your needle in. Okay, so here is her original needle. Here is a new modern needle, same size. So I'm going to use that, just a regular 15 by 1 size 40 needle. Okay, so unscrewing this knob just a hair, taking the flat side of the needle. You know what, let me raise that up. That's going to make my life easier. Okay, it slid all the way up, and if I tighten it, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to get some thread, and let's see if she works. Okay, so I had to do another little bit of tapping here. And you remember when I was putting this back together, how the plate here, it was all bent in? There's something really forced it. Well, maybe when the machine was dropped on its nose and bent the thread take-up lever, this part down here where the needle clamp goes on was slightly off, but off just enough that the needle was going to pound straight into the metal of the plate, which will not get you sewing if your needle won't, reach down into the hook. So I did have to tap that, but now I've changed out a couple different needles just to make sure everything's good. And she's moving up and down, so she's had a traumatic episode or two, but if you can tell, she's spinning really freely and she sounds really good. Sorry, camera angles. It's hard to watch the camera monitor when I need to watch this. But anyway, now that I have that back on, let me get this foot back on too. I have to get the needle up so it's out of the way. Slide that presser foot back on, turn the little nut to lock it in place, and please go through. Yay, okay, we're good. And remember, on these, the wheel turns away from you. Just threaded her really quick. I'll throw you in a minute how to thread her. I just wanted to see if she was going to work. And she is stitching, very oily. You know, I have a lot of oil on her. I need to run her for a while to get her cleaned up. But this is her very longest stitch length. So you can see that it is moving. The tension actually feels really balanced. It just looks very dirty because I have oil going through. So I'm going to lower the stitch length. And yes, it is adjusting well. I am so glad the tension is working well. All of those little pieces up there. And I'm just turning the wheel with my finger over here. If you can see, she's moving really free. There's some more things I'm going to be doing to this machine. So I will be doing that in a separate video, but hopefully will be out very soon. I'm waiting for a couple parts to come in. And yeah, she's working. So I'm going to, off camera, you know, do a little more work on her. Let's see if her thread cutter works. Yes, it does. That is great. There are these little plates on the white rotaries. You take them off when you're putting in and out the bobbin here. Push that button. Okay, you kind of just set it in place, push that button in, then let it go, and it holds in place, which is nice. So, to thread these guys, and again, I think that this was on the 𝐷𝐤𝐲𝐵𝐼's website. You can do a search by machine name and then whatever information, and this was a download, a free download that they had that had all of this information on just the basics of how to use these machines, which is very handy, as you can see. But to thread it, let me pull all this out so you can see how this works. Up on the very top here, I'm going to put my thread around this pin this way and then through that little disc and down where this little fork is and pull it down, okay? Once I get straight down in front, I'm going to pull it underneath this little hook here, and it's going to catch that spring, okay? If you can see that spring moving up and down. Then it kind of crosses over, okay? That'll work better. It kind of crosses over this way, and it's going to slide up into this thread guide here, and then back down, okay? And then comes back down, and we're going to slide it through this thread guide, okay, from back to front, and then thread the needle from the outside going underneath that way. And I need to trim this because it's very frayed. Okay, but that is how the needle gets threaded. It's a little bit different, but it actually works really well. It's just a different way. So I'm going to play with her for a while and then go set her over onto my universal treadle base just so I can really get her going and run her for at least a bobbin full of thread. Okay, I'm over here at my little treadle base using her, and I ran out of bobbin, so I wanted to show you how her bobbin works. I just put a separate spool up here to wind the bobbin off of so that can stay in place. So it comes down through these little eyelets here, and then in the bobbin I bring my thread inside of it and then thread it out through a hole in the side of the bobbin and get her started. And so clunking is just my foot pedal down there. But you can see it's going back and forth and threading up the bobbin pretty well. So pleased with that. And just a reminder how to thread it into the case. So I'm putting my bobbin into the case over here through that little hook. Looking at it from the front might be easier, maybe this way. I need to pull this thread across and all the way down so it goes underneath this little hook on the side there, and then it pulls up through that little nose, okay, like that. And then on the side I can hold it like this and pop it in. Just a reminder, once again, the wheel does go away from you, not towards you. And she's looking good, so I'm just going to play for a little bit longer. So this has just been an example of a basic, very basic restoration. How to take something that is frozen up, not usable, make sure all the internal parts are working, clean her up the best you can on the outside without doing any permanent changes, and making her work just like she should. So I hope that this was helpful to somebody. And I do have another video coming up on this machine. We're going to be doing something interesting with her. So stay tuned for that later. And thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Hello, everybody. This is just a quick little video because I'm not going to be able to show you me in action doing what I did, but I want to show you how it turned out because this was quite the experiment. As you know, this is a white rotary, and a white rotary is built different than a Singer in a lot of ways. It runs the opposite direction and things like that, but this gal is now, as far as I know, one of the very first hand crank operated white rotaries in existence. At least as far as I know. I mean, I'm sure someone can correct me. But I want to show you how I was able to do this and why it's such a troublesome feat. So, first of all, I've never seen an original white rotary hand crank, so I don't know that they exist. This is what you can buy. It's the generic hand crank, and they are built to fit onto a lot of Singer machines, okay? White rotaries, if they have a motor boss placement at all, it is not in the correct place for a, oops, I need to wipe that off. It's not in the correct place for a mount like this to go onto because it's going to make everything off center. In addition to that, these are shaped inverted. On a Singer, the sides are lower and the center comes out. On these, the sides are higher, the center goes in. It's just a totally different shape, totally different screw size, everything like that. So if you can see, what I have done is she is in a box, and it has to be a box that you can screw into, obviously. And this is a T-bracket, T-plate, I should say. T-plate, and it is the 4-inch T-plate. Mine's from Ace Hardware, but you know, it is what it is. Then I had to bend it so that it would be the proper distance in order to get the center of this part of the hand crank to be in the same location as the center of the wheel. Okay, that's important. And as you can see, it's very close down there. We have just a hair of space between the wheel and the bracket. So it has to be exactly placed. Then the other thing is the wheel spokes on these are also in a totally different orientation than on a Singer. So whereas on a Singer, this little nub will just flop in, it'll be between the spokes and it'll spin. What I have done is, this is the rubber piece that comes with the hand wheel, is I have taken a black zip tie around one of the spokes, and I made sure it was one of the spokes that was on the opposite side than the clutch. This is the clutch release here. I did not want this right on top of that because that would be a pain. Okay, so with these bent over in place, and I have epoxied the zip tie to the hand crank. Throughout all of this, there were no modifications made to the original machine. The original machine is still original. There was nothing screwed into it or modified in any way, okay? But once those were epoxied down, putting that big rubber piece over it. That just helps secure it even more. So now I want to show you if I can get close enough and still have it. Now, usually for a hand crank, like for a singer, if I was going to do this, you would have to turn this crank away from you, okay? Because this is a white rotary and everything is in backwards world when you use one of these things, I have to turn this crank towards me, all right? So, if you can see, I turn the crank. She moves really well. She operates just about silently and everything like that. So it's really cool. In addition to the bolts that I have holding this on, I did put some epoxy under there, and I'm going to let that dry overnight. And I think that you just saw me wipe a little drip off the bottom. It is clear epoxy, so, you know, it shouldn't be ugly. And I also have the epoxy around that piece. So I'm just going to let that dry overnight. But I wanted to show you because I think that that is a very, very cool little modification.
I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood, where simple living's valued, she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years, and let her sew again.